بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم لا حول ولا قوة الا بالله العلی العظیم الحمد لله رب العالمین و صلی الله علی سیدنا و نبینا ابی القاسم المصطفى محمد و آله الطیبین الطاهرین لا سیما بقیة الله فی الارضین عجل الله تعالی فرجه الشریف اللهم اخرجنی من ظلمات الوهم و اکرمنی بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا ابواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of Sharh al-Manzumah by late Ayatummah Mutahhari. Today we start al-Ghurar al-Rabi'ah, the fourth chapter of the second section, and this is about some issues related to امكان. We are already familiar with امكان ذاتي, امكان بالقياس إلى الغير, and we said that we don't have امكان بالغير. These are things that you know. But we want to introduce new types of امكان. Of course, you may wonder, are these different types of امكان or different meanings of امكان? After we explain, it will become clear that these are different meanings. It's not that they are different types of the same thing. No, they're different meanings. امكان has been used in different senses. Hakim Sabzewari says عروض الامكان بتحلیل وقع. عروض الامكان بتحلیل وقع وهو مع الغیری من ذین اجتمع. عروض and اتصاف are two things that we talked about them before. When we were talking about معقولات اولا, معقولات ثانی, منطقی, فلسفی, we said that sometimes عروض and اتصاف happen in خارج, in the external world. Like زیدون عالم. علم happens for Zayd outside, and also Zayd which is outside is متصف, is described with being alim. So عروض of ilm and اتصاف بالعلم both are about kharij. Sometimes عروض and اتصاف are both in ذهن, like al-insanu kulliyun. Kulliya is not outside, kulliya is in ذهن, and عروض is ذهن, اتصاف in ذهن. Means kulliya is a characteristic of al-insan in mind, and also it's a predicate in mind. Sometimes عروض is في الذهن والاتصاف في الخارج. This is what we want to hear. Today our discussion about امكان is of this type, third type. In general, all secondary philosophical intelligibles, المعقولات الثانية الفلسفية, all of them are from this type, that عروض في الذهن والاتصاف بالخارج. When you say الإنسان ممكن, امكان is not like علم that in the external world comes and belongs to the subject. Sometimes the subject is with al-alamiya, with ilm, sometimes without ilm. So uruz in kharij can happen. And ittisaf is also, of course, bil kharij. Insan khariji is alim. When we say al-insanu mumkinun, امكان is not like ilm. Is mahmul min samimeh. So uruz is zihni, in mind, we analyze and separate between insan and imkan, and we say insan is mumkin. This is in mind and after analysis. Otherwise, whenever there is insan, imkan is there, cannot be separated. Whenever we have four, zawjiyah or being even is there. But ittisaf is bil kharij, no problem. Means something which is external has this quality. So, عروض الامكان بتحلیل وقع. We consider imkan as a separate thing, and then we bring it as predicate, and we say al-insanu mumkinun. How this has happened? بتحلیل وقع. It has happened with analysis. This is one point. The second point, وهو مع الغیری من ذین اجتمع. امكان, and right now we are talking about امكان خاص. امكان خاص, امكان بالذات, سلب الضرورتين. This امكان بالذات can exist with two غيري, وجوب بالغير and امتناع بالغير. ذين, those two means وجوب and امتناع, or ضرورة and امتناع. So امكان بالذات can be واجب بالغير or ممتنع بالغير, can be with these two. We cannot have امكان بالغير. And yesterday I told you that واجب بالذات never becomes بالغير. ممتنع بالذات never becomes بالغير. Any of the بالغير ones. واجب بالذات cannot become واجب بالغير or ممتنع بالغير or ممكن بالغير, because واجب بالذات doesn't get affected by anything. ممتنع بالذات doesn't get affected by anything. Only ممكن بالذات can be بالغير, either واجب or ممتنع. If إلا is complete for existence, it becomes واجب بالغير. If إلا is not complete, either something is missing or all of them are missing, it's ممتنع بالغير. It's impossible because of the other, by the other. Okay. But Hakim Sabzewari has more things to say. Just this was the first couplet. The first couplet has two parts. One part, عروض الامكان بتحلیل وقع. Number two, وهو مع الغير من ذين اجتمع. Ayatummah Mutahhari first explains the first part of this couplet and explains that how in معقولات الثانية عروض is always in mind. اتصاف can be in kharij, like falsafi. If it is falsafi, is in kharij. اتصاف can be also in mind if it is mantiqi. So he explains this. And he says that the reason اتصاف cannot be in kharij, for example, like امكان, one of the معقولات الثانية, امكان, which is our topic. If امكان was happening and belonging to subject outside, for example, if we had insan and then امكان and then امكان belonging to insan in kharij, it was mahmul zamima. The problem was that then insan before having امكان, was it mumkin or was it something else? If you say before امكان was still mumkin, then it means that again that امكان was also subject to this question, that is that امكان something that is بالزميمة or من صميمة. If you say it's من صميمة, so why you didn't say it for the first one? Why you said عروض in خارج? If it is من بالزميمة, then again you have to ask before that, was it ممكن or not? Plus the امكان itself, if it is existing independently, then like for example ilm can be independent in the sense that araz is independent from Ghurar in its existence, although the type of existence is that it belongs to something, is وجود الغیره, but it has وجود في نفسه. If امكان was like that, then it had wujud, it had existence, then it means that again that existence was, you know, either wajib or mumtane or mumkin. And then if it was mumkin, then that mumkin had existence. So we have all kinds of problems if we think that امكان is mahmul بالضميمة. No, it's not بالضميمة. Therefore عروض is in zihn, in mind. And then he explains هو مع الغيري من ذين اجتمع. امكان can be واجب بالغير or can be ممتنع بالغير, can exist with these two. Then we move on to something else. وقد يراد منه في استعمال العم والاخص واستقبالي. Sometimes امكان is used in different senses, in other senses. Sometimes it's al-Am is inclusive, امكان عام. Sometimes امكان اخص. Sometimes امكان استقبالي. So we have امكان خاص, which we already discussed. امكان خاص means to be contingent. سلب الضرورتين is neither واجب الوجود بالذات nor ممتنع الوجود بالذات, is ممكن الوجود بالذات. This is امكان خاص, we call it contingent. امكان عام we had several times before. You are familiar with this امكان عام, and of course you are familiar with all of them based on بداية. But even here we mentioned this before, that sometimes philosophers, when they say something is ممكن, they mean possible. Means it's not ممتنع الوجود بالذات. It can be واجب الوجود بالذات or ممكن الوجود بالذات. They call it امكان عام or امكان أعم, means it's not سلب الضرورتين. So امكان عام includes واجب الوجود بالذات and includes ممكن الوجود بالذات, both of them. So more general. And in the also common conversations of people, whenever they ask whether something is mumkin or not, they mean whether it is possible or impossible. For example, they may even ask, is God possible? Is God mumkin? In this sense, yes, it means it's not impossible, but it can be then necessary or contingent. They also have another terminology, امكان اخص. امكان اخص. It's more limited than امكان خاص. It's a type of امكان خاص. So امكان عام is more general. Then part of it is امكان خاص, and then part of it is امكان اخص, more specific. In order to explain this, we need to mention something that logicians say about necessity or ضرورة. Logicians say sometimes ضرورة is بالذات, sometimes it's بالوصف, or you can say ضرورة is ذاتي or وصفي. in Arabic ذاتية أو وصفية. ضرورة ذاتی you are familiar with. واجب الوجود بالذات. This is ضرورة ذاتی. Means without adding anything, without bringing any new feature, any new consideration, just the essence of subject. ذات الموضوع requires existence. For example, if the predicate is existence, for mantiqi it doesn't need to be existence, there can be anything. But in philosophy mostly we talk about propositions that their predicate is wujud. So if we say Allah mawjudun, we have ضرورة ذاتی, or in Arabic الضرورة الذاتية, necessity which is essential, because ذات الموضوع, the essence of God, requires wujud. ضرورة ذاتی. Logicians, of course, as I said, they can bring it to other things. For example, logicians say الإنسان حيوان بالضرورة الذاتية. Yes. The essence of insan requires to be حيوان, to be animal. ضرورة ذاتية. But in philosophy we talk about propositions that their predicate is existence. ضرورة وصفی or الضرورة الوصفية is when the essence may not require the predicate, may not. But with adding a quality, it would require. For example, if we say al-arba'a zawjun for logicians, al-arba'a zawjun, 4 is even. This is بالضرورة الذاتية, because 4 by its essence requires to be even. But if we have apples, and say these apples are even, apple as such can be even, can be odd, can even not exist. So we say if apples are 4, they are even بالضرورة. If apples are 4, or if apples are 6. So apple as such, ماهیت apple, the quiddity of apple, ماهیت التفاحة, ماهیت السیب, in Farsi we say the ماهیة, the essence doesn't require to be even. But if you say with the wasf, with the quality of being 4 or 6 or 8 or 10, then yes, it must be even. So is there here ضرورة ذاتی? No. Is it ضرورة وصفی? Yes. Means with this wasf, with this quality, it becomes necessary to be even. Now, if for example we have insan and the complete cause is there, with this quality of having complete cause, okay, it becomes necessary to exist. Now, when we have ضرورة ذاتی, there is no امكان. Yeah, there is no امكان ذاتی. Yes, there is امكان العم, but not امكان خاص, امكان ذاتی. But with ضرورت وصفی, there can be امكان ذاتی. Like, for example, apple, tufaha, and being even or being odd is mumkin. Zatan is mumkin. But if it is 4, then it must be even. If it is 5, must be odd. So, امکان اخص, now that you understood what is ضرورت ذاتی and ضرورت وصفی, now we go to امکان اخص. امکان اخص means that there is neither ضرورت ذاتی nor ضرورت وصفی. Neither the essence of subject requires this predicate, or in philosophy mostly existence. Neither the essence of the subject requires the predicate, which can be existence or something else. Nor a quality is added to the essence which requires this predicate like existence. We don't have ضرورت ذاتی, ضرورت وصفی. So it's امکان اخص. The next type is امكان استقبالی. امكان استقبالی. Let me again read for you the poem. وقد يراد منه في استعمال means it is sometimes used to mean this. العم, امكان عام, we explained. والاخص, we explained. واستقبالی. Now we want to explain امكان استقبالی. What is امكان استقبالی? مستقبل means future. Opposite to ماضی and مضارع. مستقبل. Yeah. So sometimes something exists now. It's hal, it's, you know, if it is a verb we call muzarif, and indicates that something is happening now, it's existing now. Sometimes it's about past, madi, madha. Sometimes it's about future, has not yet happened. Okay. Here they introduce to us another meaning of imkan, which is only for future things. Why? Because something that has happened has happened. Something this is happening now is happening. It is only something which is going to happen in future that right now has not yet happened. So right now is mumkin. It's mumkin. But something which has happened in the past or now, it must exist. So you see, their focus is not about zat. It's not about zat. If it was zat, it doesn't make difference. Future, past, present, all things have imkan zati or wujub zati. If it is Allah, which is above past, present, future, He has zarura. Anything else has imkan, but it is zati. But here they are introducing another concept because it's based on another consideration, another, perspective. In order to understand this better, we have to remember a terminology we had in previous books. الضرورة بشرط المحمول. One type of ضرورة that you had in al-Mantiq by Sheikh Muzaffar, and it comes in philosophy also, is الضرورة بشرط المحمول. Very similar to ضرورة وصفی. But ضرورة وصفی, the description or the quality is anything. ضرورة بشرط المحمول means you take محمول as a condition. الإنسان كاتب. Okay, this is إمكان ذاتي. But الإنسان الكاتب كاتب بالضرورة. الإنسان الكاتب كاتب بالضرورة. or الإنسان ما دام كونه كاتبا كاتب بالضرورة. A human being who is author, who is a writer, is author or writer بالضرورة. Yes, of course. الإنسان القائم قائم بالضرورة. What type of ضرورة is this? They call it ضرورة بشرط المحمول. Means necessity with the condition that محمول is therefore subject. It's obvious. الضرورة بشرط المحمول is obvious. This is what logicians say. Philosophers have brought this term, but Ayatummah Mutahhari at the end says, maybe it was better they had given another name to it. They have brought this term for beings. It's not necessarily their usage for proposition. It's for beings. They say when something exists, something exists. So it is موجود. For example, al-insan al-mawjud. This insan which is موجود. Is it موجود or not? Of course it's موجود. Or if something existed before in that time, was it موجود or not? Yes. بالضرورة. What type of ضرورة is this? ضرورة بالذات? No. Insan has never ضرورة ذاتي. It's ضرورة بشرط المحمول. So something that exists بالضرورة. But this doesn't mean that it didn't need إلا. It needs إلا. Because إلا is to giving ضرورة بالغير. But ضرورة بشرط محمول is also there for معلولات and for واجب الوجود. Anything that exists necessarily. So there are two ways to look at this issue. One is the way logicians look at it as a proposition and then say that those things that have happened, whether now or in the past, they have a kind of ضرورة بشرط المحمول, means with this existence they are necessary. Philosophers mostly look at the beings, and they say these beings, they have reality and they cannot be non-existent بالضرورة. There is a footnote here that Ayatollah Mutahhari mentions that how Ibn Sina introduced this idea of امكان استقبالی, and some people have objected. Haji Sabzewari says that Khaja Nasiruddin Tusi didn't agree with امكان استقبالی because he had this idea that even future things, when we don't know, we think they are mumkin, because future things are also like past things or now things which happen now. Either their illah is complete in the knowledge of God, in Lawh Mahfuz, in Nafs al-Amr, either the cause will be complete or not. If it's complete, it's zaruri. It's not complete, it doesn't happen bizarura. So they didn't want to agree with Ibn Sina. Not that they didn't want, they didn't could agree. But Ayatollah Mutahhari says no, maybe we can distinguish between perspective of logicians and perspective of philosophers. As I mentioned to you right away, I gave you the image that Ayatollah Mutahhari tries to give us. So the reason philosophers introduced these concepts and logicians have introduced these concepts was not because they had plenty of time and they just wanted to exercise and and use their mind so that their mind doesn't become lazy. No, the reason they introduced these concepts is because in philosophy and theology and in other sciences we very much need, and the more we have these ways of considerations separated from each other and all of them present to our mind, the better we can analyze things. If you are not familiar with such subtle types of possibility, then when you deal with something you think, oh, it's only mumkin or wajib, finished. But you have to know that sometimes with some consideration, something which was mumkin can become wajib or become mumtani, etc. Then there is another discussion here which leads us then to the next section. This is end of section 2. Section 2 is much smaller than section 1. In section 1 we had 17 Ghurar, 17 chapters. Here we have only 4. Was it 4? Yes. So we have only 4, and then it leads us to the third section, which is about huduth and qidam. Hakim says, قد كان الافتقار للامكان. We had this in previous books. ما هي علة حاجة المعلول إلى العلة? What is the reason that ma'lul needs illah, the effect needs cause? There are different views. According to philosophers, it is imkan. Therefore we said al-mahiyatu amkanat fahtajat. Mahiya, because it is mumkin, then it is muhtaj, it's needy. There are other views, but first let me mention Hakim's Sabzewari's poem, and then we explain what views are here and why philosophers choose امكان. So قد كان الافتقار للامكان. افتقار is because of امكان, means امكان بذاتی. Normally when we say امكان and we don't mention anything else, we mean امكان ذاتی in philosophy. فلیجعل القدیم بالزمان. If امكان is the reason, so we can have قدیم زمانی, which is ممکن. There's no problem. According to theologians, normally before Khaja Nasir, normally the reason, we will explain inshallah, was huduth, not to exist and then exist, to have a history of non-existence. This is hadith, something which has a history of non-existence. For them, then if something has always existed, could not be created, they thought it is only wajibul wujud who is qadim, for example. Not all theologians, but this was very common. Because huduth, for example, they say al-alamu hadithun wa kullu hadithin ma'lulun makhluqun. Huduth for them was the reason. But according to philosophers, since they believe that imkan zati is the reason for haja and need, we can have a mumkin zati, a contingent being who is qadim zamani. No problem. Whether we have qadim zamani or not is another issue, but if we had qadim zamani, can be still ma'lul, muhtaj. So فلیجعل القدیم بالزمان. Past, we can suggest قدیم زمانی, something which is temporally eternal, means eternal in time. Now let's go to the discussion. Ayatummah Mutahhari says this is a very useful and necessary discussion. What is the reason, what is the criterion for need for cause? Why we need cause? Philosophers cannot miss such an important question. Ayatummah Mutahhari mentions different theories and explains the one by Muslim philosophers. One theory is Maddiyun, the theory of materialists, people, or those who have materialistic opinion. They say anything that exists needs cause. You know that Russell says that, you know, he believed in God, but once he was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you know, many years ago I read this, that he was he was riding, I think he was riding bicycle, and says this question came to my mind: if God created everything, who created God? And he said I couldn't find any answer, and then I had problem with believing in the existence of God. This shows that he didn't understand that every being doesn't need cause. Every finite, limited, created, contingent being needs cause. So God doesn't need cause. If God needed cause, then it was not God. So these people who have materialistic view, they think any being has to have a cause. They are created by something else, that by something else, and they don't accept that we have uncaused reality, which is God. Ayatummah Mutahhari says, of course, maybe they have not expressed this so clearly and explicitly in their books, because this issue was raised by Muslim philosophers, but now we measure what they have said and use this terminology, we can say, yes, they believed in this idea that illatu hajat ma'lul ila illa huwa al-wujud, or hiya al-wujud, just because they exist. The second view is mutakallimin's opinion, or kind of dominant view among theologians, is that it's huduth. So they say it's not true that every being needs cause or creator. Every hadith, every being which didn't exist and then started to exist, they need cause. The third opinion is the opinion of, he calls hukamay ilahi, meaning monotheistic philosophers or theistic philosophers. And they say the reason is امكان ذاتی. امكان ذاتی means in essence has equal relation with existence and non-existence. Therefore, to exist or not to exist needs something from outside, which is the cause, to prioritize and make the other type impossible. So if wujud becomes necessary and Adam impossible, it exists. If Adam becomes necessary and wujud impossible, it doesn't exist. According to them, then there is no issue if something always existed, as long as it's mumkin, because there is no transformation, there is no inqilab fil mahiyya. If something is mumkin bil zat, it's mumkin bil zat. In the beginning, in the middle, in the end, before existing, after existing, always something is mumkin zati, is mumkin zati. If you have an animal, a cow for example, cow is mumkin. If there is no cow, or if cow exists, or if there are millions of cows, or there are millions of years that cows have existed, it doesn't make difference. امکان ذاتی is there. So philosophers see no problem in having things which are eternal, either like angels, for example, or عقول مجرده, or even the physical world. The physical world for متكلمين normally is seen as something that has a beginning. 1 million years or 1 trillion years, anyway, they say there is a beginning for this. According to philosophers, there is no need, and actually they may believe that even the physical world is eternal, in this sense, that there was no time that nothing existed. And they argue for it. They say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is fayyad ala al-itlaq. He's absolutely gracious. Absolutely gracious. Why such a gracious, absolutely gracious God started this world, for example, 1 million years ago or 1 trillion years ago? He has no time, no limit, nothing. What was specific about that moment that he started this? As long as there is such Lord, creation must be there. So for philosophers, not only there is no problem in having qadim zamani, which is created, they actually believe that this physical world is qadim zamani, because angels or uqul are qadim, but no zaman. There is no zaman for them. They are beyond time and space. They are mujarrad. But even this material world, which has zaman, because it's, in the process of becoming, there is harakat, there is zaman, there is motion, there is time. They say this can have a long history of existence, and you can never reach end of it. They say there's no problem with this. Mutakallamin were very upset with this. Some of them were very upset with this. Even someone like Ghazali in Tahafutul Falasifa. Ghazali has a book, Maqasidul Falasifa, where he just mentions ideas of philosophers. And then he has a book, Tahafutul Falasifa, is against philosophers. Tahafut means contradiction, means philosophers have contradicting positions. And one area that he attacks philosophers is about the issue of huduth and qadam. He says they believe that alam is qadim, but Quran, Hadith say that alam is hadith. Even sometimes they say, even in other religions, if you go to the Torah, to Injil, Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, you see there is mention of huduth. Philosophers say huduth doesn't need to be zamani, can be huduth zati. So they introduce a new notion, huduth zati. They say huduth zamani means something that didn't exist in a certain time and then it started to exist, or something that has a historical existence. You can say it in this way. Means there is a limit, 1 year, 10 years, 1 million years, anyway, there's a time frame. This is Hadatha Zamani. There was a time that this didn't exist. Or you can say there is a time limit for it. But what about angels? What about mujarradat? We know that they exist, and we know that they don't have time frame. So instead of insisting on everything to be hadith zamani, we can say everything has to be hadith. It can be zamani or not zamani. Therefore we say hadith zati, which includes all mumkinat which exist. What is hadith zati? Means in their essence there is no wujud, because it's mutasawa nisba ila al-wujud wal-adam. Yeah, kullu mumkinin mutasawa nisba ila al-wujud wal-adam. It's the equal relation to existence and non-existence. So in essence there is no existence. Existence comes from illa, from outside. So in essence has history of non-existence. We can even say it in this way, as they say, al-mumkanu fi zatihi, or min haqqihi fi zatihi an yakuna lays, wa min illatihi an yakuna ays. If mumkinat are left to themselves, they cannot exist. Their existence comes from Allah. So they introduced the concept of hadith dhati, not hadith zamani. Ayatummah Mutahhari says, according to Mulla Sadra, who has established the idea of substantial motion, al-haraka al-jawhariyah, all physical world is in process of change and haraka, everything. Therefore, according to Mulla Sadra, there is nothing which is eternal in time. There is nothing which is eternal. Like, for example, imagine a river. There's a river which is flowing. There is no water here that has been here forever. But we can say the river has always been there. So God is absolutely gracious. He has been always creating. But there is no single creature in this physical world that has always existed. So everything in this created world is hadith, even zamani. In mujarradat, of course, there is no time. So, according to Mulla Sadra, somehow the idea of mutakallimin is maybe finding a place, but not the whole world. And mutakallimin, I think they are not happy with this, because those previous mutakallimin or mutakallimin of other schools of thought, because they wanted to say the whole alam, the whole universe is hadith, not that the things, individual things inside. So this takes us to the next section, to next Farida, which is whole about huduth wa qidam. So inshallah we are going to discuss the whole idea of huduth and qidam and see different types, different meanings, and so on and so forth. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.